I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to the season finale of the most haunted city on earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
And I'm Chris Susie.
And I'm JT Timmons.
JT doesn't have a horn.
He doesn't have a horn. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you see me squatting, welcome to the tableau of the Fae. Hold on, let me adjust as we...
Oh, God. For those of you who are just listening, an elf on the shelf just attacked Madison.
That sounds about right. Okay. Oh, my God. Jingles.
And Jingles is being very...
Well, okay,
Wow.
Debria has decided for the season finale that she was going to invite... essentially the Fae, which is Elf on the Shelf.
He's armed. He's got
armed.
the sword.
So we walked in today with no clue that these things would be here. In a cryptid note that basically states, to whom it may concern, Jingles tried to turn my friend into elf cookies, so we are taking his dolls hostage and sending him back to hell where he came from. If you want us to stop, put $1 million into Debria's bank account. P.S. She had nothing to do with it. Elf on the Shelf girl, which I guess is this one.
We also have a cookie tray with the severed limb.
And the cookies are made from the limb.
And the fluff. There's a Merry Christmas roller.
And our two friends behind us, one has an elf on it that is also armed. And
there's the leg.
There's the leg.
Well, I mean, this is the leg. I see now.
And so this one is holding this one hostage.
Right, I see that.
They both have tape on their mouths,
yes.
And they're bound.
It is a hostage situation behind us.
It is. And Jingles was dangling from my microphone, being held hostage above his shipping container.
So funny. Debria is just ridiculous.
She apparently had nothing to do with it.
A burlap sack.
She's so clever.
I'm sorry, Jingles. They took your sword away.
Yeah.
This is about
They're armed. They're all armed.
Oh my God, taking this back. There we go. There you go, Jingles.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I actually prefer Jingles to the Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah, well, okay, so I have a fear of Elf on the Shelf. This didn't exist when we were, any of us were children. And so I'm horrified of whoever created this monstrosity.
Oh, no, the woman who created Elf on the Shelf cites that it's based on an elf from her childhood. This is a full-on Fae invasion because the Elf on the Shelf has basically become a part of a Christmas tradition, which means that it was a possible pagan entity that has hooked into this Christian holiday that is going strong and will be going on for quite some time. So it's just kind of a spooky thing when you think about it. Because
horrifying.
The Elf on the Shelf came from nowhere. Just out of nowhere. And now it's like everybody at least knows who it is. That's some high level magic going on right there.
Well, and I hate that they cause destruction and they watch you all the time, which is also my problem with Santa Claus.
Yeah, Santa Claus is a little invasive. Let's face it. And he's an old deity, an old god.
Yeah.
Because he's got omnipotence, omniscience. He judges you. Yeah. So he's actually
so does Elf.
A person who can judge. Well, supposedly the elf reports back to Santa.
I hate that.
However, a little snitch.
Yeah. You snitch.
However, we're going to be hearing from the.
We're going to be hearing from Santa Claus.
Right.
Goodness gracious.
From all the pagan creatures that have latched on to the Christmas traditions.
Well, and it's interesting too because Santa Claus in its original form was just some old dude that was like, I'm going to make some kids happy.
Well, it's so weird because Santa is like an amalgam of so many different things because there are people who recognize St. Nicholas as Santa Claus, but then there's also Kris Kringle, and then there's just Kinderklaas, and then there's all these other Père Noëls, these figures, even Father Time is kind of mushed into all of this too. Santa Claus is a peculiar creation when you think about it. It is very much, this Nordic Viking sort who shows up in furs.
I like the Christmas witch in Italy. That's the way to do
La
it.
Befana.
Yes,
I love La Befana. When I was I lived in Italy, and they kind of introduced that idea. And mind you, this was after I had been introduced to Krampus while I lived in Germany.
Quite different.
I was in Italy, and comes the stooped over woman who was like, ah! And you're like, excuse me, what's this? And they're like, oh, well, this is the Christmas witch. The Christmas what? The Christmas witch. And yeah, it was fascinating. It's an interesting story because basically the story goes the three wise men coming through town are like, we're gathering gifts. We're heading on our way to go see the baby Jesus. And La Befana was like, ma! I don't believe it. Wah! And then later she found out it was indeed the baby Jesus,
she's
and
like,
she felt really bad. She was like, "Oh no, I thought they were just pranksters. Yeah, I thought they were scam artists." So she every Christmas goes out to give gifts to all the children, thinking that she could make up for missing out on giving a gift to Jesus.
Well,
La Befana.
I mean, I guess that's an eternity of apologizing, which seems a bit excessive.
And it's interesting because that's another one where it's like, I think she was just an old woman, but she has become like a full-on witch, like broom riding.
She has,
tackling witch. But I think she was just a woman who was like sweeping her porch, and the three kings came by and said, hey, we're going to go see the baby Jesus. She's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
You fools, liars.
Well, right. It's like, oh, are you a Nigerian prince? Should I just sign over my bank account to you?
Oh my God.
Melchior.
Well, with that being said, now that you are all aware of how creepy Christmas actually is,
there's a lot of creepiness going on in Christmas.
We can move forward with today's finale. Chris came appropriately dressed in his Hatman core attire.
Yes.
Hatman core.
It is wet, cold, and rainy outside.
Hatman core.
And on my way out, I was like, I'll grab an umbrella, but I'm also carrying a big bag of cursed items. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't carry an umbrella and my bag of cursed items. So I put on a hat and my rain jacket. And now I look like, cosplay Hatman.
Well, also you're giving The Exorcist.
Oh,
yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. But
because I have the bag.
Yes.
The bag. Yeah.
It's all there. You could win a cosplay competition. But anywho, before we get into today's hootenannies, even though we've already been hooting and nannying.
There has been at least one nanny who was hooted.
We're going to start out with some announcements. So first off, today's finale obviously means that we're going to take a very small little break for the holidays. So we're going to all go see our families, do the holidays, hoot and nanny in that, and we'll see you in the new year. So that means that we are going to... One second. We are going to be back on January 6th. That is Saturday, January 6th, 2024.
Woof.
Yes, we will be back with that. So we're going to, like I said, take a little break. You enjoy your holiday. We'll enjoy our holiday. And then we'll reconvene at a later date in a new year.
That's our first Conjuring episode,
yes. Yep. It'll be our first Conjuring episode. Also... Patrick, you can't see him right now because he's being blocked by
you can see like a part of his wing, shining.
Patrick and Jingles here have merch now.
Merchity merch.
Y'all love them so much that we had to put them on a t-shirt.
Yep.
And a hoodie.
Yeah, we have some exciting artist renditions. So, if anything, just look at the coolness of it.
They are very cool. And there's also slides.
What?
Yeah, one has jingles on it and one has Patrick on it.
Yeah.
And
That was
they're-
a surprise for today.
Yeah. And so
sure.
they're really cool. Obviously, you can get other things besides slides. There's shirts, there's sweatshirts, there's stickers, all sorts of fun things. So, and the artwork's really awesome. It's all handcrafted just for us. So, go get you some Patrick or Jingles merch.
Yeah, the link will be in the description, and or you can just go on hauntedcitypodcast.com to get it.
And tell us if you're Team Patrick or Team Jingles.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And that way we'll know who the evil ones are.
I'm outnumbered in this situation.
Yeah, I know.
Which is really sad, really lame of both of you.
I'm sorry that I don't take the side of the demonic porcelain-faced doll that wants to kill us.
Neither does JT. It's really disappointing.
I just like Patrick a lot.
I mean, everybody likes Patrick. He's
Yeah.
cool and all, but like, you're the one over here harping all the time that you want demons, you want more demon,
Yeah,
and yet
it's true.
here's your opportunity.
It's true.
Hey,
And you're like, I'm gonna pick the good guy, out of character, not on brand.
not on brand.
Disappointing. But
Maybe
regardless,
it's a doppelganger.
ooh, that'd be interesting. But
No, the doppelganger wouldn't have a bad back.
oh yeah, it'd be in good health.
Yeah.
But it had almost 30 years to really work up to this moment.
And then all Parajunkies get a merch discount too.
Yes.
Awesome.
And that's all the time too. So any merch that we already have,
Or that we will have.
or that we will have, you know, the I Will Haunt You shirts, the original Haunted City podcast shirts, things like that, you get a discount if you're a Power Junkie, which is also that's a pretty good deal because I mean, just without the discount, you're getting lots and lots of content. Lots of episodes in our log and, you know, and things like that. So definitely join us for that.
Yes.
But today we have a lot to go through.
A lot to go through. This is the season 5 finale. We're going to do the best of.
Yes. So we have a couple different things that we're going to go through today, but we're going to start out with the top 5 moments from this year in general of things that the Parajunkies. So we asked the Parajunkies specifically what they found to be the most notable moments from this show. And there was quite a consensus on all of it.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was a few variables, but you know, for the most part, y'all were all in agreement of what you thought was the top 5 moments.
Nice.
So we're gonna start out with number 5. Y'all's favorite episode by a lot of different people was top 5 haunted locations you can visit right now.
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense because if you're listening to this podcast, it probably means that you are into paranormal investigation. And what's the best way that you can get into a ghost hunt? Rent a hotel room.
Absolutely.
And so it was funny. I was going back and listening to that episode, and I was, and we talked about the Conjuring house, and we were like, yeah, it's one that we've had on our radar for a while, but it's just so expensive, which it is. It's very expensive, but we're going to be doing it, which is really awesome. So with that,
as proof, you know, that is, you know, as accessible as these places are. They're, you know, by far the easiest way to get into any of these haunted locations is through the hotel Airbnb kind of trade.
There's a bug in here.
it's a demon.
Oh,
It's
demon.
red.
No, it's not. It's literally a beetle. Chill.
It's a demon.
Demon beetle.
Demon beetle.
Demon beetle.
But regardless, yeah, it is a lot more accessible than you think to get into these super famous haunted locations because people think like, oh, this house is like so notorious. There's no way I could ever go there. No, you can literally book it on their website if you're a normal
very
person.
true. Yeah.
We have to jump through a few more hoops because we have a platform.
Right.
So they have, you know, some
Media releases and things of that nature.
yeah, they have some extra rules and stuff. But if you just want to go, and especially if you're cool with other people being on the property as well, it's pretty easy to just say like, hey, I'm going to spend the night on this night. And
Absolutely. And it's become such a big trade that a lot of places that you didn't have access to before have opened up into this kind of arrangement. And that's, you know, something to always keep in mind that the more famously haunted a place is, the more likely they are to have, you know, created a business model around it.
Right.
So it is. And it's interesting because I think that one of the top niche social media things is travel on top of, paranormal, travel actually ranks higher. So the idea that, of course, an episode that kind of highlights, what you can do, where you can go, and how you can experience these things would, I think, rank super high on people's list of, that interested me.
Well, and I think, too, it's an interesting list to have in general for us, because eventually I'm sure we'll go to all of these places.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you didn't watch that episode, to give you the highlight of what the 5 locations were, we had the Conjuring House, we had the Hotel Monteleon in New Orleans, the 1790 here in Savannah, the Crescent Hotel, and the Queen Mary.
Yep.
All very accessible. You can literally book a room, including the Queen Mary. People get married on the Queen Mary. Yeah. They throw birthday parties, events. So maybe that's something, if you're having a big birthday, throw your birthday
honorable
on.
mentions are the Overlook.
Yes.
The Overlook. It's the Stanley Hotel.
The Overlook
the
Hotel.
Overlook Hotel. The Stanley Hotel, Lizzie Borden's house, the Lemp Mansion is a bed and breakfast. So, there's plenty of places that are cashing in on their haunted legacy.
Oh, yeah. There's so many hotels nowadays that are like, we have a ghost.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
So,
well, and I even think that they're not even like super proud of it. They're not like,
right.
But you just can't escape it. There's plenty of, Chicago's full of like haunted locations that are like, yeah, people were murdered here. So, well, because like the place where the St. Valentine's Day massacre occurred, is just like out in the open. It's like, oh, this was a site of a brutal mass execution, and it's right here. I'm gonna pull out my ghost app.
Exactly. So. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that, and maybe we'll talk about more haunted locations in the future. At least ones that you can stay in, because
and ghostly tourism is such a big trade that it's worth talking about both locations and activities.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because there's so many places nowadays that have some type of managing team.
Sure.
But a lot of the big haunted locations I've noticed, I think they're getting bought by the same people.
I think that is what's happening.
Right.
Absolutely. Someone just noticed the trend and how much money there is.
There is.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. Before we move on, I just wanted to read some of the comments from the Parajunkies. EO Serenity said, have you guys seen Snoop on the Stoop? And there was even a Martha Stewart elf too.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Monique said, jingles on a shingle. Melissa said, my family had an elf on a shelf forced upon us, so we named him Creeper and hoped a child would touch it. Let's see. Alex said Batrick on a chancla is amazing.
Oh
yeah. Ashley's with you, Maddie, on the on being Team Jingles.
Yes, thank you.
I think we could have guessed that one.
Yeah.
She is very Team Jingles. The original Paramutant is here, and he said Jingles reminds me of Cicero from Skyrim, the Dark Brotherhood.
That's fair. There you go.
Solid. That's a solid reference.
Absolutely.
Well, and speaking of Jingles and Batrick, that was your number 4 choice, was the introduction of Jingles and Batrick this year.
There you go.
I think everybody needs a mascot of some sort.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was kind of it was inadvertent in a way, because they were set dressing more than anything else. Actually, I dropped off Jingles because my wife did not want him in the house. So I brought him here.
Megan.
Because that was a reasonable thing. Well, the problem was I put him in the game cabinet, and we were looking for games, and he fell off the top shelf on her, and that's enough to end his participation at the Susie Jones household.
I could see that, but Megan, isn't he so sweet? He jingled.
No, he is not.
He just wanted to cuddle. That's what he wanted to do.
He doesn't. No.
He needed a hug.
No.
But it's funny because like Batrick. I just picked up Batrick at Target one day, to be quite honest. And I was like, that's a pretty cool neon sign, because people are, I think, really into neon nowadays.
Absolutely.
And so, for all the holidays, neon signs have been a big selling point, I guess. And so they came up with really cool designs. And I was like, Patrick looks like he belongs on our wall.
Yes, and that's just it. He fits so nicely into it as just a design element. But the fact that the Parajunkies embraced him so fervently.
Yes. Now, did we ever figure out who named him Patrick?
No, I don't remember.
It was on one of our...
It was one of the Parajunkies.
It was one of the Parajunkies.
But,
it was on a live.
But if you were the one that named Patrick his name, sign off in the comments right now because so we can credit you.
Yes.
Who named Jingles? Was it you, Chris?
It was you.
Oh, it was me. Okay.
I ain't naming him. He's a demon.
I'm just a genius. Thank you. And I gave him his arm.
Yeah, that's right.
His arming, I guess. Where'd your sword go?
Melissa named Patrick.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Great job, Melissa.
Well done. Brilliant.
Nice.
Where'd your sword go? Okay. Sorry. Jingles dropped his sword. He's nothing without his sword.
Can't have an unarmed demon clown. That would be terrible. Be horrible if the porcelain-faced demon clown didn't have a weapon.
I'm not really afraid of clowns. I know you are, but... so it was funny when JT and I were going to get some stuff for the episode today. We were trying to find things that we could dress it up with because obviously it's not Halloween anymore, so it's a little bit trickier to get spooky decor. But we found the kids' clown party decor, and we were like, what if we just decked the room out?
Nope.
And we had no idea Debrea had done this, and so now this is way better.
Idea. It is. She's just the bomb.
But we were like, what if we surprise Chris with a room
full of clown art? Gosh, that's thinking. Let's agitate the 6'4" Asian.
Just agitate, but anywho, so number 3 was the Fitzpatrick Hotel live stream.
Oh, sure. I mean, that was tremendous.
That was
an incredible
cool
event.
Yeah, it was just a cool experience in general. I don't think any of us really knew what was going to, we didn't have a comprehension of what was going to happen when we went out there.
Did we even know that we would be alone in the building?
No,
because it is an active hotel, and we ended up being the only people there on one of the nights. I think one night there was one person. Yeah, and the staff are like, "See ya." It's like, no, whoa, wait.
I was like, nobody.
What happens if there's an emergency? Later. Goodbye. And they're even like, yeah, the police officer of this town is on vacation.
Oh, they did say that.
Yeah,
they did say that.
Yeah, he was gone.
Like, so even if something does go wrong, there's no one to call.
Oh God, I forgot they said that.
Yeah, and the front door didn't lock.
And the front door did not lock. So it was definitely an experience to remember.
Well, and it was very kind of them.
It was amazing. They're so welcoming.
They were super welcoming.
They were amazing.
Well, and it's like you can tell that community is very close knit. I mean, they are literally in the middle of nowhere, so you kind of have to be a close knit community, or I think everybody would go stir crazy. But it was just like we immediately showed up, and they're like, "Yeah, go wherever you want." Right. And we're like, "Can we go down into the dungeon?" And they're like, "Yeah, have at it." They're like, "Oh yeah, that's where people were buried at one point." And we're like,
"Oh good,
oh good."
And the ground was still dirt.
It was.
Our job easy.
It
was.
was.
Oh, great. Just piles of dirt.
It was
in the ground there.
Still dirt.
Still dirt.
Christmas decor.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Because that's also, Christmas decor is very creepy.
Yes.
Like you're just looking at like a reindeer staring at you from the distance. You're like, what is it? I don't know.
Well, it's just like, and I think part of the reason why that was such a fun investigation is those ghosts are so starved of attention.
Or they only know a set number of people, so new people really excites them.
Oh yeah.
Right. And they were just like, what? There's visitors? It's a ladybug.
Is it?
Yes,
is it a ladybug?
it is. It's a ladybug.
Demon.
Huh?
That's no demon.
Are you
Nor is it
sure?
a beetle.
Are we sure?
It's kind of beetleish.
It's kind of beetleish.
Well, I think ladybugs are technically beetles.
Is a beetle of some type.
Yeah. It just likes the light.
No,
Christopher?
I thought it would alarm the ladybug.
The ladybug was not phased. But regardless, I completely agree. I think that was a highlight of the year for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
We reference it so much.
We do.
Too.
And we learned a lot. It was one of our most effective Estes methods.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, did you fall down the stairs there?
No.
No, that was the sound that you thought. You heard it, and you were certain that I had fallen down the stairs.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, and we discovered that the sound is very similar to the sound of the very heavy door.
The hatch.
The hatch that goes down into the basement. We actually let it go, and it made that huge calamitous sound.
Yes.
Which is only slightly offensive that they think I could make that sound because it was like a 400-pound door of solid wood hitting solid wood.
It was really
if you were rolling down
the stairs.
I feel like that would make a calamitous noise.
It's true. I admit that if I fall over, it's a calamitous noise. But still, you don't want to think, oh, me and this gigantic wooden door have the same sound profile.
Ashley and Monique think the best part of that whole thing was you being the little spoon, Chris.
Oh, right. Yeah. The little spoon of the ghosts?
Yes.
The ghost slumber party.
I did not sleep at night at all there, so there was no little spooning going on.
There was no sleeping.
That's what you think.
I also just want to say that JT, Debris, and I's reaction to thinking Chris fell down the stairs was not to go check if Chris had fallen down the stairs.
Yeah, it was.
We just texted him. Instead, we were like, "Are you okay?"
And
which is a weird text to get because I'm just up in my room and yeah. I'm all right.
None of us decided.
How are you?
You still alive?
Well, I remember saying if he doesn't text back in 60 seconds, I'm going to check.
Right.
And then we timed it, and then at second 45, you text back.
Or what it could have been was not a ghost at all. It was somebody coming in from the unlocked front door and squatting in the cellar.
Yeah,
in
going
the
down
dungeon.
into the cellar.
Yeah.
That and for all we could know, there was somebody down there with us watching. You never know. That's even creepier to think about.
Yeah. Now, thanks for bringing that up.
Well, you're on the other opposite side of the building. We were right in front of it, so you were fine.
Yeah, I was fine in the most haunted room in the entire building.
Well, they were nice. They didn't
with a vortex of mirrors facing each other.
Well, at least you didn't get your butt grabbed. Like, was that Dalen who got felt up by a ghost at the Fitzpatrick?
Yes, I think it was Dalen.
Yeah, one of the Ghost Brothers got handsy with a ghost.
It wasn't Dalen.
It wasn't Dalen.
It wasn't Dalen. Who was it?
One of the Ghost Brothers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. Anyway.
Well, regardless. And that was actually y'all's number 2, not their specific episode of the Fitzpatrick, but the Ghost Brothers coming on to the podcast.
Yes.
Y'all loved that.
That was a treat.
That was a treat.
That was wonderful. They were so funny.
They were funny.
Holy cow. I mean, and you could tell that they just knew each other well enough to just riff nonstop.
Yeah.
It was nonstop. We could have had a couple episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. We could just run the cameras on them.
Would you like to introduce yourselves? Give yourself a little background?
You know what? There's nothing more I would love to do than introduce myself right now. Okay. My name is Dalen Spratt, and for those that don't know, I am the bad boy of paranormal himself, a.k.a. Sexual Chocolate, a.k.a. the leader of the Ghost Brothers, a.k.a. I am better than Jawan and Marcus, look better than Jawan and Marcus, and it's my show, but I just let them own it.
Hey guys, I am Marcus, the actual entertainment of the show, the actual one with talent. Dalen. Nah, man, I'm part of I'm 1/3 of the illustrious, electronic.
Ooh, give me one more.
Electrifying.
One more.
Death-defying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
we ride motorcycles.
Yeah, well, not with definitely with helmets, but not fast motorcycles. Motorcycles you just put in the city.
They got 3 wheels.
Whoa, it's a little fast for me. I am the Marcus Harvey, a.k.a. Hot Ham and Cheese. Ooh. Sticking to the roof of your mouth, ladies. That used to be my old stripper name back in the day, so don't judge me.
Crazy. But last, certainly not least.
Not least.
Okay.
It is.
Who is he?
Jawan and Only.
Ooh. Oh, it's a.
I like
that's
that.
a nickname.
Paranormal Poppy, ladies and gentlemen. I am another third of the Ghost Brothers. I am been voted the sexiest of the Ghost Brothers.
But that is still up for debate.
That is definitely because
once it hits the internet, it's pretty much fact.
Because the ladies love
just,
big boned men. You know what I'm saying? They love big boned men during this time of season.
Listen, you should have stuck with it because then you drop weight. And
Yeah,
you just
I lost
couldn't
it.
hold that position.
Couldn't hold the chubby, lovable.
For all the chubby
characters.
chasers, Marcus was out there waiting.
I was waiting, and y'all didn't say nothing. Except for
We're
Tina.
here. Thank y'all so much for having us.
course.
We are excited.
Naturally.
We were just mediating at that point.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like we were like, all right, Marcus, what do you have to say next? It's like, which is honestly really great. And that's been a nice new friendship we have built with them because they're just really wonderful people. And
Just right up the road. in
yeah,
Atlanta.
in Atlanta, which is, which is cool in itself. And that will not be the last time y'all will see us with the Ghost Brothers in some capacity. We're already starting to talk about some other little things that we might collaborate on. Maybe go join Dalen in a cemetery and do a spirit box session with him. Because I think that's such a fascinating concept that he's come up with is to just see what he finds in a cemetery.
He's building a platform off of it. I'm impressed.
Oh no,
yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, he has enough name recognition to start with, so that really gives him leeway. But what he stumbled upon is a very authentic experience, which is sit with him live and
Right.
just blanket responses from a spirit box, and that is because I've seen lots of I'm in a cemetery with my spirit box content, but I think one of the big ones is sitting there live with somebody, and his take on all of it is pretty golden as well.
And and I think it's interesting. I'm loving actually seeing people's content of what they find in cemeteries. I think it's Becky Ann Galentine.
Oh yeah,
She does a segment on her TikTok that I think is very interesting as well, where basically she brings her spirit box and she sits next to a grave and she draws what comes through, which is so interesting. If you have that type of talent to draw and things like that,
Absolutely.
what a cool idea. I think people are getting much more inventive with their ghost hunting, which I mean, that's pretty much how every technique we have in the book nowadays just came from somebody being like, I wonder what happens if we do this,
or trying desperately to minimize the amount of contamination. That's kind of how the Estes method came about,
Right.
and how a lot of methods come about is people trying to get something that has the least amount of interaction between the living and the dead, so that it's just what the environment is giving you.
Right. And I actually one of the I guess new techniques or whatever, or something that the Paranormal Society of Savannah tried out recently is taking a balloon on an investigation.
Yeah.
I want to try that at the Conjuring House and see what we get with that, because that also makes a lot of sense. Just in the way of making it as easy for a spirit to move something as possible.
This is one of those things that I always come across when people debunk things, because a lot of people will debunk things because they're like, oh, well, the slightest breeze will move this. I was like, yeah, which means it's the easiest thing to move.
Right.
Just because you've discovered that, oh, this door rattles when the slightest disturbance happens, it's like, yeah, you know what? Ghosts aren't bodybuilders. Ghosts don't have a lot of strength. They're not able to just pick up and move things. They are going to pick the lightest thing to move. They're going to utilize the least amount of energy because they don't want to expend it all, entertaining you with their knocks, raps, and dropping things and pushing things or throwing things. So it's fascinating because it's like you're not debunking because you found out that when you open that door closes. What you're really doing is you're saying, okay, so there's something loose about that door. So loose, in fact, that if a spirit wanted to find something in the environment to manipulate, they would probably gravitate towards the thing that moves with the breeze, something that moves very easily. I had an instance where I was at a cemetery and we were standing there and we heard this ringing, bing, bing. And we were like, okay, and we got to that point where we were able to ask for 2 bings for no and 1 bing for yes kind of thing. And finally, a friend of mine was like, oh, it's the flagpole. It's it's this thing on the flagpole that's ringing. That's what it is. It's just a flagpole. And I was like, yeah, but there's no breeze. So you're saying it moves in the breeze, which is how we discovered it. But there was no breeze for the whole time that we were talking. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense that the thing that the wind can move, a ghost could probably move as well.
I thought you were going to say it was like a coffin bell or something, and it was like ding, ding.
I've only once in my entire life seen a dead ringer bell. And I want to say it was in Maryland. It was in a cemetery, and it was on a curl, like a curled piece of metal sticking out of the ground. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Honestly, I think they're really genius. It's like if you're buried alive, that's
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
The only problem was when the wind blows, it causes the bells to ring, and people are like, do you think that's the bell? Do you think they're there? Do you think they're alive?
Right.
That's all right. Let's not worry about it.
Put a guard around it, a little wind guard.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. But, it's like...
But now we can get like a little electric button. So you press a button and it lights up. Bing.
Do they do that?
I don't know. They should.
They should.
I mean, granted, we don't have nearly the amount of burying live people that we, once upon a time had.
Sure.
Especially since we embalm people so much.
It's like if
you're not going to survive the embalming process.
If you didn't die before, you died by embalming.
You died by embalming.
Could you imagine if a
Alrighty.
mortician?
We gotta keep going.
Okay.
Gotta keep going.
My last point, though, because I know one of our Parajunkies actually just is in mortician school right now.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So-
she is. It's pretty cool.
So I want to know if a situation happens to you while you're in the process of embalming somebody and they're like, let us know. I want to know.
So I just wanted to say that some of the Parajunkies are commenting about doing an episode with Dalen. And that is currently in the works. I just wanted to say that.
Yes.
I've been texting him, and we're going back and forth trying to find the best time to do it. But yeah, and then also Ashley said that she got Jameson some ghost hunting equipment for Christmas. So
Yay.
start.
That's going to be cool.
Awesome.
Yup.
What a great Christmas.
Now we can't listen to this episode until after Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Ghostmas to you.
All right, let's
Jameson.
go to number one.
Number one.
Can anybody guess? Like, can you guess, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead and try.
already know.
I really can't.
It was astounding how much of a consensus everybody had of this number one.
It's true.
It was the squonk.
Oh, of course.
Everybody,
I should have guessed that. Yeah.
Everybody's favorite episode or topic or just moment in general was the squonk.
We need that squonk merch.
We do.
Squonk
That's
merch.
your next one, Jay. I want squonk.
Yeah,
Squonk
we do
merch.
Squonk merch.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Maybe
I'll take the
we
money
can
that we make off of the jingles and Batrick merch, and I'll put it into a squonk design.
hold on. Maybe we could have a competition of whatever listener sends in the best squonk drawing. We'll put that on merch.
We'll put it on merch.
You
Sure.
hear, L?
Yeah,
L.
if you want to
Draw us up a squonk.
Bring up the squonk.
well, I know some of y'all are artists out there.
That's true.
If you want to draw us a squonk, maybe we'll put it on a shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Have a
When
little
we-
competition out of
When
it.
we
That'd be
open
fun.
up- when we open up season 6, we're gonna have a drawing from L up on the wall.
Yeah,
Nice.
she sent in some stuff.
Just gotta pick it up tomorrow.
Exactly. So, I think that would be cool. But honestly, I agree with y'all. I love the squonk. I think that's the funniest cryptid to ever exist.
Absolutely.
You
Just so
Sad.
pathetic. Such a pathetic creature.
Such a pathetic creature.
Well, it's just like didn't today, Jay? Didn't you call Wittershins, my cat, a squonk?
Yes.
Yeah.
It lives on the squonk.
Well, because my cat, he we don't know what happened to him when he was a baby when we found him, but he is blued out in one of his eyes, but he has very watery eyes all the time. No. He just always looks a little crying face, and so JT was looking at him, and he recently started doing this thing. When he wants your attention, he'll just come up to you and just fall to his side.
Oh.
Fall to his side. And
JT, why do you do that?
Yeah. What? What?
Fall to your side for attention.
Yeah, right? And so Wittershins will start doing that, and then he looks at you with his watery eyes, and JT goes, he's a squonk. And I'm like, yeah. And he's really stinky too, like a squonk. So
you got to watch it. You're just going to have bubbles.
Yeah, he's just going to bubble up, which I really hope doesn't happen to him one day. But yeah, I agree, y'all. Like, what a great cryptid.
Listeners, okay, so here's the thing. Everyone listening to this, if you can draw, send in your squonk drawings to ghostmail at hauntedcitypodcast.com, and I'll see what I can do.
Yes.
Squonk it up.
Squonk it up.
Bring on the squonk.
Maybe if we get like more than 10, we can do like a squonkulation on the shirt.
Not a
just like all the
squonkulation.
squonk drawings. I get that illustrated.
I mean,
Andy Warhol squonk
right.
situation going there.
That's funny.
Alex said depressed emo cryptid with a lip ring and cry shield.
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be our Christmas merch next year. Merry Squonkmas.
Merry
Squonkmas.
Absolutely.
I think that's adorable.
The squonk. That's sweet.
Well, and it's funny because like when we were coming up with this concept to do the squonk as a From One to Wicked, JT's like, nobody's gonna like that. Like, it's what a lame thing. And I was like, no, everybody's gonna like this.
I know.
And boy, are you eating your words now.
Eating them.
Munching them up because now we have a whole army of squonkers.
Yeah, we're about to have squonk merch.
Yes, we have squonkers all over the country
that's
now.
Good. Squonker. Be a proud squonker.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
That's that T-shirt writes itself. I'm a squonker.
Yes, EO Serenity says squonk it up should be on the next T-shirt.
Yeah,
Squonk it up.
Squonk it up.
See,
Yep, eat my words.
what a fun time. All right.
So we're gonna head over to the next segment. We have 4 segments today.
Oh,
Yes.
So this is the next one.
4 segments.
Yes. Well, so
Segment 2.
yeah. And so for this next one, we're going to do something we've never done before, which is a From One to Wicked battle. And so where Chris and I are going to decide if the Spearfinger or the Wendigo is the baddest of the bad.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
Yes.
Yep.
And so personally, I think I already kind of know what I would deem the worst. But I'd like to hear your thoughts, Chris. What do you think about this comparison? I think they're evenly matched, at least.
They are pretty evenly matched, although the more I think about the Wendigo, the more I realize that the Wendigo is a part of a higher pantheon. Because the Wendigo, fascinatingly, has so many very recognizable traits that you can find all around the world. The Wendigo has many traits with the faun and with Pan and the horned god and the green man. And so there's something archetypal about the Wendigo. The Wendigo also is an affliction that it occurs when you eat human flesh. So the concept of it being not just this near deity level entity, but also kind of a werewolf situation where people can be possessed by the Wendigo, and it is you invite it into your body through the consumption of human flesh. So that puts it in a more tangible light, simply because Spearfinger lives almost entirely in folklore. There aren't a lot of Spearfinger stories that aren't derived through folklore. So even if somebody has an experience with something and they liken it to an experience with a Spearfinger, it's not the same as a man who ate his family and is on trial, and they evoke the name Wendigo in the trial, because in those instances, the madness that comes from or drives you to eating human flesh is considered that darkness that is dwelling inside. So to me, the Wendigo is definitely a more threatening, and it does not. It is not as localized as people want it to be. And a lot of people even will go with the cultural significance and the cultural phenomenon of it. But a lot of that is widespread too, because once you've been introduced to the idea of the Wendigo, it is in fact in your cultural lexicon. It is in your mind as a condition. Whereas a Spearfinger is a specific entity, the Wendigo can be anybody. And
That's a good point.
And that brings about like a different modality, because the Wendigo is a marauding, wicked creature that also is a representation of how desperate a human can be, how dark a human can be, and how dangerous a human can be.
I agree with that. The Spearfinger is, you're right in the way that it's so localized to Gatlinburg and that sort
that
of
string of mountains there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and there's ways to defeat it.
That's a big one too. It's very difficult to beat a Wendigo. You need a literal Wendigo hunter.
Right. And are there any Wendigo hunters anymore?
Well, I would imagine that in the shamanistic practices,
Sure,
there must be shaman who, within their bag of tricks, have how to deal with a Wendigo.
Yeah. Well, and my other question is, could the Wendigo possess you before you consume the human flesh?
That's such a good question, and I ponder that too. It's like, is it the Wendigo that makes you eat the flesh, or is it eating the flesh that brings the Wendigo? It's like, is it possible that you could be plagued or possessed and forced into the act? Because it does seem like in most stories it's about the bloodlust. It's about craving human flesh, and the craving comes from consuming human flesh. But it's like, but what if? Because that's another thing, is there seems to be a separation between the human who becomes a Wendigo and the Wendigo as a governing malicious spirit, malicious entity.
And my other question, I guess, would be, how would a Wendigo go about picking a person? So I feel like there's a lot of stuff we don't know about Wendigos.
Absolutely.
And that partially is because it is, to a degree, a very closed culture, and we're not supposed to know everything about it. But I do have questions within it, where it's, do Wendigos have the ability to peer into your weaknesses and choose the weakest family member?
Well, I think about like desperation, and how desperation breeds a type of depression and a type of mental, profiling. And I think that, a wounded psyche might, bleed into the ether, and the Wendigo can just be circling around the person who is having the hardest time. And thereby, capitalizing on that. Although in a lot of Wendigo stories of the person, it's oftentimes just the person goes on this kind of maverick behavior. So it might be a case of possession. It might be a case of of just straight up you.
Right. Well, because like,
wrong place, wrong time.
I don't know. I just remember when we first talked about the Wendigo, when we did the episode, we talked about that story of like the dad or whatever, and they went out to the wilderness to like, ride out the winter or something like that. And then he came back and he's like, well, I'm super fat because I just ate all my family members. And it's like, well, if they were really in a mode of starvation, don't you think that whole family would have been just
desperate,
as vulnerable?
Right.
What was it about the dad that made him become the Wendigo? If that makes sense, where it's like,
well, and that does raise a question of, was there a point at which, the whole family were like, well, let's eat little Jimmy. We're starving. Little Jimmy, you're the youngest. You've got the least to lose. And then, it just became a practice amongst that small group until finally it was just like, it's you or me.
Yeah.
And I'm a lot stronger. What
get out, Grandma.
How did it go about? Because I think in the examination of the bodies, they found like, blunt force trauma. So he was murdering these people to eat them. And that is, definitely no bueno.
Well, I
no
guess
good.
at the time period too, they didn't really have like in that type of survival like situation, they didn't have like humane ways to
that's true.
murder
No,
individuals. Although I'm like, you could just like suffocate them with a pillow, right? Like, why blunt force trauma? And be like, whack, you know? Or it's the Wendigo that's like enjoying the murder.
It's enjoying the murder. It's enjoying the hunt.
Taryn Ballou said, if anyone is interested in Wendigos and other native stories, there's an amazing book called Never Whistle at Night.
Oh, I love that title.
It's a great title.
Mm-hmm. That is a really good title.
Yeah. Well, because it's true. Don't whistle at night.
Don't whistle in a graveyard.
No.
Don't whistle on a stage either.
Just don't whistle.
Yeah.
Just don't whistle.
Just don't whistle. Don't whistle. No need to whistle.
And that's an interesting thing because that has connotations all around the world too.
Mm-hmm.
That whistling it attracts evil entities. Mm-hmm. And I once heard it explained that whistling is the act of an idle person. It means you have nothing else to do. So if you're whistling, you're broadcasting that you're open, that you don't have anything to do. And you know, the idle hands is the devil's playground kind of situation. So to whistle, and that was a very narrow corridor of talk because it was like, why can't you whistle in a graveyard? I was like, well, because the dead think you're mocking them for one thing, because you're using your breath to make music, and for another thing, it's an idle act. It's a rude act. You know, It's like putting your hands in your pockets. Don't walk around with your hands in your pockets. It's like, is that going to bring a demon? Well, no, but whistling might.
Well, so it doesn't. Nobody remember the dwarves from Snow White saying "whistle while you work"? Like,
right, there you go.
What are they trying to lure us to? Those dwarves. Dwarves without hats, dwarves
without hats. Although they all had, most of them had hats.
But they weren't pointy though, so that you can see them coming.
What if you play a recording of a whistle?
I feel like that's different.
Yeah.
Although the question is the whistle what draws them? The sound. Is the sound what draws them? You know, and not the action, but the sound.
The sound.
Yeah.
Like what if you took a massive like PA speaker out in the woods and you whistled live into a microphone to like
that sounds
broadcast it?
Like a bad idea.
That sounds like the worst idea ever.
Well, and then you have cameras.
Although as far as plots for a horror movie go, that's a pretty good one.
Just goes out for a test.
Yeah.
Luckily, I can't whistle. I'm not a good whistler, so that's never going to fall. Oh, see, there we go. We're doomed.
Pretty good at it.
Yeah. JT would be the one, though, to get attacked by something in the woods for doing something stupid. Yes, you would. Because
you obviously come up with the plans.
Yeah.
It's like, what if?
How can you broadcast a whistle across multiple mountains? That's what I'm thinking.
You stand at the top.
You can lure.
You stand at the top and whistle down into the valley, and that's how you would get them.
No, I mean, I'm talking like big old speaker, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm coming up with things in my mind now. So
yeah,
You
well,
could probably get a radio station to
maybe
broadcast it.
That's a good idea.
And everything's just going to come and eat you.
Oh man.
Although they won't know where to go. They're like, it's just a radio. Wow.
Yeah. That's wild.
I think you should maybe let your brain close that one off and put it away.
You've got a cabin up in the mountains. You can go and whistle.
That's the worst. Those are the worst woods to do it, though. I'm telling you.
Where a cabin is?
We just talked about this like 2 days ago, JT and I did, because we were saying, we've been in a lot of woods, and there's just something about those woods around the cabin that just feel weird.
We should do a ghost hunt there.
We can absolutely do that. Anytime you want.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, those woods, there's something in them, and it is nothing I want to be a part of.
Well, the woods. If you can get away from society and get into the woods, you will find just this never-ending font of mystic energy. Mm-hmm. You just know that you're no longer connected to that paved world. You are now in some natural world, and it's easy to draw things to you. Because we stink of society. You go out there and we reek of society. And these creatures that are bound and determined to protect their cut of the world, they will come for you. They do not want you there. So, there's a pressure that comes from going into the wilderness.
That makes sense. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Every time we go up there, and JT says something stupid about the entities of the wood, I just hear my family's very deeply rooted into Appalachia, and I just hear all of them in the back of my head like, shut him up. Shut him up. These hollers have things in them.
You want a moon face child? You're going to get a moon face child.
And it's just I don't want to test them in a lot of ways. But, it's just we had a consensus that it's when it's dark there, you just always feel like something is watching you.
Sure.
Always. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable,
and
the
it's
sensation.
Worth noting the likelihood is, yes, you are being watched by animals.
Oh, sure.
Regardless. But that sensation, that feeling of being watched, it's enough to drive you insane. You that paranoia that comes from the knowledge that there's something just outside your sight, just outside your ability to recognize it. Yeah, your mind goes into overdrive trying to identify it, trying to make it, and that's probably where a lot of those monsters come from. Is just that I turned around and I saw something duck behind the tree. It's well, are you sure it wasn't just motion blur from your head moving? Are you sure it wasn't just your imagination? And it doesn't matter at that point. Because once you've entertained the idea, it has form and shape, and there's energy out there going, yeah, I could do that. I could be the shadow behind the tree. Don't you worry.
Well, and there are bears up there, but those bears are so fat, and all that they want are trash cans. Most of the time. They aren't looking at me. They're like, how do I get to your peanut butter through that big box that you have around your trash can? But to bring it all back to what we were originally talking about, I think the Wendigo
is here.
Swell.
Go get her.
Go get her.
Go get her. But I think the consensus is, oh my God, why?
She just was standing.
Why were you lurking?
Oh my Lord.
Say hi to the live stream.
Good morning.
Good morning.
They can't hear you.
Get on that mic.
Yeah,
Go talk in the mic.
Hop on, Debrea.
Good morning.
Good morning.
They love your work.
Yes. They're very, very pleased with it.
I didn't do that.
It was the elf, right?
How dare you? Horn Jingles.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to sit in this room with Jingles after doing this.
Do you understand that
Jingles is going to be staring you down from the corner?
Jingles he has revenge in his heart.
Oh, when I put him in the bag, I was like, please don't hurt me. It's just a prank.
It's just a prank. He'll get behind that, actually. I think he's like, oh, it's a prank? Yeah, all right.
So here's the thing, though. Jingles here knows where you live. And I think Vermilion might end up in a sack as well. I'm just kidding. That's her cat. Vermilion is her cat.
Although
but
we don't know
Jingles is up to.
limitations. We don't know where he draws the line.
He won't kill him. It's just a sack.
We don't know where he draws the line.
All he's going to do is make him extra dizzy.
He's been through a lot.
All right. So, segment number 3.
Segment number 3 is we're going to have a show and tell. Well, it's just Chris because JT couldn't get on top of the roof of this here studio to get my haunted object. But Chris is going to have a show and tell with his haunted and cursed objects.
Yes, and they can live here.
Oh,
Cool.
I have no use for them.
Debri's like, oh my God.
We'll start with this lovely number. So,
Why is it in this really disturbing packaging?
because I had a friend who he lives in North Carolina. He was working on an old plantation, and he came across this item, and he took it home, and he was like, as soon as I took it home, I started getting peripheral neuropathy in my arm, like really painful and having horrible nightmares. And so he thought he had carpal tunnel syndrome, but he was also like having these terrible, terrible nightmares. And over time, he realized that this item was a major component of his nightmares.
Oh.
And so he said, hey, I would like to send this to you because I can't have it in my house anymore. I believe it is a butcher's tool. And I was like, okay. So what he sent me was this saw.
Oh my God.
So this saw, it looks like a large knife, but is in fact a butcher's saw. It is for cutting through bone when you are cutting meat and making bits of meat. The interesting thing was the plantation that he was working on in North Carolina was a military hospital during the Civil War. It was a makeshift hospital.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
And when the amputations got so heavy, they would break all of their surgical saws and they would go to the butcher shops and they would get the butcher saws and they would use butcher saws to do the amputations. When he sent me this, within a week, he wrote me back and said, my arm's fine. It's all gone. I have full use of my arm. And I said, I think this is an amputation saw. I think this saw was used to amputate limbs, and I think you are having some residual effects of someone who had their arm sawed off by this lovely tool, which will be prominently displayed here in the studio where Debria works alone late at night.
So, okay.
What?
So,
I have a family.
You have a family, we know.
We're here. We torture you.
so my big issue with this is the teeth on this here saw are very small in the scheme of things. Could you imagine how long it must have taken to get through the meat, first off, and let alone bone?
Well, that was just it. So if you look at old amputee saws, the teeth are very much the same. And it is because you want that fine action. You don't want to have to like push large teeth through. So you're doing this instead of this.
But I just feel like...
Yeah, no, it was terrible. Could you imagine being awake for that? Apparently she can.
they're like butt down on this. You know, it's like, oh my God.
Given that I brought this possibly cursed item here, I also brought a protective item.
This is reminding me I should have brought my human bone fragment. It's on my vanity.
So this was at an antique store, and when I saw it, I immediately recognized it as it's sort of a coconut shell mask. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of your classic mask of the era, but I was not familiar with the daggers through it. And the daggers through it kind of drew my attention too, because I was like, that's really interesting. You know, what a strange thing. And it has kind of, you know, a very old folk art look to it. And mask work in a lot of different spiritualities are about scaring away the evil thing, or, you know, setting a watch in your home so it's watching. But what I found really interesting about this one is that there is a braid with knots in it. And I know we've spoken about this before, but knots are classic first spell work. Tying knots into things is how you bind things and how you trap things and how you make your intentions true, is by making these binds. And these 4 daggers that are stabbing through the mask actually create a cage for whatever this is. So there's a good chance that whatever is knotted up inside is being kept inside the mask by these 4 spikes. So there might be a terrible, evil entity inside this cavern. But hey, the mask is there to scare away any evil ne'er-do-wells who might want to release the demon inside.
That's quite interesting. Well, and so coconuts in general have traditionally been seen as a protective sort of measure, because they have that hard exterior that can just trap whatever it is inside in the meat. And so a lot of times when you see like diseased palm trees or whatever, it was believed that that tree was absorbing whatever
the evil
the evil was, and that's why
and coconuts are still used in many rituals to protect people from the parasitic and the opportunistic spirits that might attack.
Jack-o'-lanterns traditionally were used to ward off evil entities because the veil was so thin. on Halloween and All Hallows Eve and things like that. People would originally radishes and turnips and things like that, which are a lot creepier.
They are super creepy.
Because they do look like little faces, but people would carve these scary faces into these gourds to essentially just scare off things and be like, you don't want to come into this house because, scary turnip.
Right.
Scary turnip.
Scary turnip.
Yes. And so if you didn't know, that's where jack-o'-lanterns originally came from.
Jack-o'-lantern.
But yeah, I completely agree with the knots.
Stingy
And this
Jack,
looks like it's made out of some type of like sweetgrass.
Sweetgrass,
or
yeah.
like-
So it definitely has a lot of hearkening to. It's weird. My hands really hurt.
super cool.
There's a lot of hearkening to Gullah Geechee tradition. Yeah, it feels like I got splinters, but I know I didn't.
I have enough pain issues. I need this thing to not do anything to me in life.
Real fast, before we move on, we have some comments here. Monique asks, is this everything from your trunk, Chris?
Yes. Megan will be so happy
that
I'm not traveling around with a full cacophony. And this isn't everything. This is just what kind of makes sense to carry around.
Yeah.
I have a little shed full of stupid stuff.
This would look really cool on the wall.
I think that belongs on the wall.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think it's a protective thing. I
so
do
too.
think that this is it's not evil. I do believe it is specifically because there's a good chance that this is love. That what's happening in here is a spell to protect. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that it's held in with 4 daggers. Well, we could use all the protection we have because, jingles.
Because, this.
Oh, well, and then there's this.
Yeah.
Which definitely...
So going back to that, EO Serenity said, that's no butter knife for sure, but it would put butter on toast quick.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Ashley said, was not expecting to start with a literal murder weapon.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Casual.
I mean, I'm sure it didn't intentionally kill anyone.
Yeah.
These are very intricate knots, too.
Yes, they are.
Angie Fenton said, oh my word. Monique said, Jingles just got a new weapon.
Good luck wielding that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think Jingles can't handle a nice butcher
Ashley
knife.
said, yes, please keep that away from Jingles and all the dolls. And EO said, oh yeah, that is super creepy, and it has a braid. But talking about the mask.
Yeah.
Yep. And Ashley said, Chris is no longer allowed to give Maddie a hard time for arming Jingles. He's kind of asking for it at this point.
Yeah, well, Jingles already amputated an elf, it's like this would have made his life a lot easier if you would have given it to him earlier. But
and thank goodness that it was Jingles that did this, because if a human being were to do this to a doll, the dolls would truly hate that human being and really have just a vicious and angry kind of. I mean, anybody anybody who did this to a doll is bound to get some kind of retribution from the dolls.
Especially from a doll that grew its eyes back.
Speaking of dolls, say hello to...
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. Bethany.
This doll.
I hate her.
Oh, my God. This doll, I swear... the reason why I got her was because when I first saw her, I was like, she's looking right at me. And it was so weird because oftentimes dolls are drawn askant. Their eyes are not looking at you. You don't get this eye contact thing. And this one I felt was looking right into my soul. And I was like, that's so weird. And so I was like kind of going around and we got into a conversation. They're like, oh, you know what? That's one of those old Shirley Temple dolls. It's actually worth a lot of money. The old Shirley Temple dolls, there was only a limited run of them, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, is it though? Because it's made of a strange material.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. I'm gonna die.
For everyone listening, explain what just happened.
Chris's fingers. Not Chris's.
Not my fingers.
The doll's fingers
broke off because like I said, it's a strange material.
Go get super glue right now. I am not testing this doll. God.
So the interesting thing is, this doll is entirely made of porcelain. And it's so strange because, again, you look at it, all of it.
Please don't crack her anymore.
You're thinking it must be plastic, but it's not. It is most certainly not. And then on the back of the neck, am I right? Yes. Look.
Harry Potter?
HR.
Oh.
But it's scrawled
Bria's
in.
going to be calling after this.
So I'm going to put this right next to Debria's workstation.
Why?
Let me see her hand real quick, though.
Yeah.
So
But let's put her back together. She's scary.
she's horrified.
She's very scary because she's so normal looking.
Oh my God.
It creates it's uncanny valley.
I hate it.
And so I asked
My
the
chest
woman,
hurts.
about this doll, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I bought that doll because it reminded me of my little girl." I was like,
I'm horrified of her
that's
little girl.
Well, it's like, that's neat. You thought it reminded you of your little girl, and she's like, "Yeah, but my little girl hated it. She brought it home, and the little girl was like, no, not in my house."
With good reason.
Goodness gracious.
So,
Might want to put a little on the hand.
yeah, that's a good point.
So we are now performing surgery on the doll that I just broke.
Here we are.
Yes, and Melissa said, no!
Oh, God.
Now she's looking right at me. Angie said that that doll made me feel
There we go.
nauseous just now.
She-
Monique said she's rocking that perm. And Melissa said,
She is rocking that perm.
Do y'all hear that weird mic feedback?
No.
I know.
No.
Oh, yeah. And Monique said, poor JT, all his equipment is about to start acting a fool.
This doll makes my chest hurt. I hate this.
So being very close to this doll is very upsetting.
It's very upsetting.
I want to say that I do not. We have not allowed this doll in my house at all. So it has been living in my shed for a long time. But earlier today, I was asked, "Hey, do you have any haunted items?" I was like, "Oh yes, thank God. I need to get this thing as far away from me as possible."
So, well, Shelby's going to have a great time with her. I hate this so much. You can go live over here with Jingles. You can be friends.
To be alone with these things.
Yeah. She's just going to sit over here and stare at you while you work. It also doesn't help that her head kind of is always at an unnatural tilt. Yeah, there's something about the way her eyes are. I don't know how to explain it. They're strangely lifelike.
They are.
And like in that way that you're like, I can accept doll eyes, but there's something that almost suggests that she really doesn't want to be a doll.
I feel like they're going to roll back in her head or she's going to blink any moment.
Can you see if those eyes are actually solid or are they inside the head?
They're inside the head.
Okay, that's a problem. Not for me anymore.
So this doll, though they are not made of the same material at all, this reminds me of the baby doll that my mamaw gave me when I was a child that I also hated. That had very lifelike eyes as well, and I'm probably going to ask my mom to find it when we go back for Christmas. Because I always hated it because it was one of those dolls from like the 50s that like you would tilt it back and its eyes would close.
Yes. That's actually what this is.
Yes.
I think this thing had eyes that opened and closed.
But mine has no hair. And it's wearing clothes because my mammals family was very poor. And so they would make their own baby doll clothes.
Oh.
And it's even worse. And so
Are you getting a headache?
Yes.
I'm getting a terrible headache.
Really?
Such a
One
good
more
time.
item.
Yay.
So, and this item
You can't leave.
came from a friend who was renting a house downtown Savannah, and
Oh, it's big.
and they were
Oh, it's real big.
they were pretty sure that it was a prop from a SCAD student film. They were pretty sure that and it was in. I want to say the attic, but it's not an attic. It was it is an attic, but it's not like an attic
like a
you go
crawl
into.
space,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
crawl space. And it was on Gaston Street. And he was like, I get these really bad dreams. And I have these terrible, terrible dreams. And every time I wake up in the middle of the night, I feel like something is moving up in the crawl space, up above me. So I popped my head up into the crawl space one day, and it was just like this empty rafters and everything, but there was this. This was sitting in the center of the attic space. And when he got it, he looked at it and he's like, this is, obviously some homemade, crap. It's not, there's nothing to this, but it made him so very uneasy that he brought it to me. And he was like, what can you tell me about this? And I'm like, it's a box. It's weird. It's creepy.
Please tell me it's not a Dybbuk box.
Well, I can't. So here's the box. And this has also never been in my house.
No, I'm just nervous. You're kidding me. You are.
It has wax on it.
Yep, it does.
It's pretty.
No.
So again, I was not against the idea that it was a prop from like a student film. Sure, a lot of work went into it though, and it is hastily made. This is not just a box. This is like somebody made this. The handles are not real. They're just like
Threw it together.
right.
Describe for those listening.
So what we have is a black wooden box with very makeshift handles on the sides. The top is covered in wax, but under the wax are clearly Goetia symbols. And those of you who do not know Goetia symbols, those are the symbols of demons. Mm-hmm. They are clearly put on the cover here. And I have not gone through the trouble of identifying which sigils are here, but I do recognize them almost immediately as Goetian.
Go ahead
And
and show if you turn it on its side so it'll so people can see what you're talking about.
So-
Okay, perfect.
Surprise. And it's literally they didn't miss a crevice of it with white candle wax.
right. It's obviously to protect. There's obviously whatever it was. And again, it could be a prop. I'm not talking of any authenticity of this item. I am just saying how it came to me, what I know about it. And I've had more than one kind of uncomfortable feeling around this. And usually it's only at night. Like during the daytime, I don't really feel anything from it. But at night, when I'm near it, it does kind of make me uncomfortable.
Well, just from the color standpoint, this was painted black.
Yeah.
And
yeah, this was obviously wood, just a panel of wood. I don't know. It's possible that they made the box, to be
Right.
perfectly honest.
it looks
Because I'm
kind of
looking
like
at
that.
big old nails that are unevenly put in.
Yeah, it's painted black, which is traditionally, used to create a protecting barrier. And white candle wax, a lot of times, is usually the universal candle wax, but it stands for purity. It stands for cleansing. A lot of times you use it in protection magic or to seal something in.
Or to seal something in, yeah.
And you put candle wax on things specifically if you want it to stay,
Right.
to bind it.
Yes.
essentially.
That is the classic use of it. And to
There's
put
a lot of candle wax.
demon sigils on it would suggest that you are trying to intimidate whatever it is, either coming for it or stuck inside of it. And because I'm colorblind,
It's red.
that's what I was about to say.
Mm-hmm. It's
there's redness in the wax, but I don't think it's the wax.
No, I think it's the dye from the actual symbols,
Oh, that
the
makes sense.
patches that have bled through.
But I'm looking at that spot.
Yeah, that's the only one that doesn't have the bleeding of it, of the dye, which is quite concerning.
I think it's blood.
Yeah.
You,
Sorry. Anyway,
Let me see.
not my problem anymore. You know whose problem it is? Debria's.
You're kind of not wrong in the way that it does look a little bit like blood. In the way that the color of the red splotches.
All right, so real fast. So Monique said the moment you pulled it out, Christopher. Melissa said my hand hasn't left my mouth since the doll. Alex said, "Holy crap, that's crazy." Open it, party time.
God, no.
You stop it. We only take it so
If
far.
anything,
in
this will receive a proper burial in the near future.
Yeah.
Yes, with
No,
all the dolls in it.
I like it. EO Serenity said the box has all the red flags.
It does.
Juanita said
And some
hard
red
pass.
spots.
Yeah.
Juanita said hard pass. That's concerning. Monique said all the demons inside there just took a tumble. Bro. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's
And
been
Angie-
tumbling for a
Angie is
while.
burning
It has.
sage.
You should. You should. Yeah, all of that is concerning. Every single bit of this feels improperly done.
It is very, this looks and feels like the act of pure desperation.
Yeah.
Like someone came across something and was like, how do I deal with it? And they came up with this as the answer. There you go.
That's not enough.
There you go. It'll take care of one of the demons. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4,
6.
5, 6. There's only 6 demons.
There's 6. And you can't really tell exactly what the sigils fully are, but we can do a little digging. But
6 for season 6.
so cool.
And you know what?
Oh my God, these move. Okay.
Yeah, don't take those out.
No. I was just moving it and it started coming out. I'm like, ah. Okay, anyways.
This is the most unhinged episode I think we've ever filmed. Truly.
They're all very. So these are not hand drawn sigils, which
No.
is also concern. There's
Which is-
7. There's 7 actually. There's 7 demons.
no.
There's 7?
There's 7. There's one in the center, too.
Is there something inside of it?
I don't know.
Alex
So
says open.
what's concerning too about this is it looks like somebody went online and printed sigils.
Yes, absolutely.
pasted them onto
these
the
are like
box.
little pieces of paper with sigils on them.
Also, what's concerning is the red that scatters amongst it that literally looks like blood spreading, which means that somebody, if that is the case, somebody was binding this to them in some degree, which is even more concerning. Like there's specifically this one smear that looks very, very much so like blood. I hate everything about this. Whoever made this, why did you do that?
Again, it could just be because we're in a art school town.
Sure.
So this could be any number of answers to why this exists and to what degree and for what purpose.
But
It does feel bad.
even if it was
I
a
can promise you
SCAD,
that.
even if it was like a SCAD project,
These
this-
are real sigils.
Yes, it
These
feels,
are Goetia. I always said Goetia. It turns out that's wrong. The Latin is Goetia. The Goetia sigils are the sigils that identify demons by name. So the sigils are
so you
in
don't have
fact
to say the name and
names.
invoke them.
And you would use them in dark practices.
Right.
So this is the Goetian side or the Goetian side versus the theurgic side. The theurgic side is when you go, and that's why 7 is troublesome
Right.
because you have 7 archangels and 7 demons that match them. And so if you've got 7 archdemons and they're represented here,
So
someone was at the very least creating the idea.
right. Something that's very concerning about it is that if this was a SCAD project in some degree, somebody who very clearly does not know anything about it went online and was like,
and just did the first thing they could find.
Right, which is very concerning because that's like the last thing you want to do ever. There are so many people that are like, oh, I need to make a set that is like a voodoo ritual or something.
Right.
And then they go online and they find voodoo rituals and then don't know how they're supposed to be doing it. And so it invokes things that they don't want.
EMF reader, Madison.
It's one in my car.
First one in your car?
There is.
It might be at our house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chris, can I go get out of your car?
Yeah. Just take my bag.
All right.
And all you have to do is try to open one of the front doors. It'll unlock all the doors, and
okay.
my ghost kit is in the back behind the driver's seat.
Got it.
God.
I am getting a headache.
All of this is very concerning, and how you didn't die from driving around with this is also quite baffling.
Maybe it's this bag. Maybe this bag is special. Doesn't seem special.
It's special to you.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm now feeling like I am having a nosebleed, but I don't think I am. Mm-hmm. But I've got that sensation, when you got that cold sensation in your nose, and you're like, something's moving in there.
Our set designer's gonna quit, y'all. Like, I don't think
You don't have to tell him.
She comes in here every day.
You don't have to tell him what it is. You just, oh yeah, that. No, that's
don't worry
nothing.
about
Don't worry
that.
about that. That's a shoebox. That's the new Air Satans.
Not the Air Satans. Oh my God. Well, this is going to have to also find a platform of some sort because I'm not putting this on the ground.
No, don't put it on the ground.
Yeah.
What happens if you put it on the ground?
So elemental forces derive themselves in the ground. So there's a lot of energy with the ground. So when something like this, what?
I need, go ahead and lock it back.
When anything gets back in touch with the ground, they have full range of power. So you want to elevate it. You want to put it on a pedestal. You want to put it in an attic.
You want to put it in an attic or a high above ground
Think about that.
crawl space.
You want to get as far away from the ground as possible.
Okay.
See if anything happens.
We could have used.
For all the listeners,
So JT just grabbed Chris's K2 EMF reader to see.
Oh, we should put the REM.
Oh, is that me though?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
It just spiked.
and it's sitting on.
It's sitting on a
the
wooden
scary
box,
box.
so that doesn't make sense.
No, and it's sitting on top of the center sigil, which is even
Oh yeah.
more concerning. Because in theory, if you were positioning all the demons in a way that they have, you would want to put the most powerful demon in the center.
Yes, you would want all the focal to go to the center demon.
Oh, and it spiked again.
Oh, good.
did it?
Yeah.
Yep, it did.
cool.
Oh, there
Again.
it go. Yeah, we're
Oh, yeah, it is
Yep.
spiking. And it's not even moving.
Nope, we're not even moving, which is so cool. And
Oh, it's
so
spiking,
yep,
yeah.
it is. It's so fun.
Getting that on camera, yeah.
I'm really having
Actually,
a
we're gonna
good
call them
time.
Air Satans.
Well, that's what Chris
I
called
call
them.
Okay.
I was explaining that when your cast and crew come in and ask, you say, "Oh no, that's just a new shoebox."
That's the
The Air Satans.
So,
That's so
and
funny.
Jay, you were gone when I was mentioning this. Don't let this sit on the ground. Do not
Yeah.
put this on the
Don't
ground.
put it on the ground.
Okay.
Because I know JT so well. And this man, if I don't tell him don't put this thing on the ground, he'll be like, I gotta move this to put something up. And then he'll put it on the ground.
Well, what if I need to, reach something?
Don't stand on it.
Oh my god.
Oh man, this is
This has been a great day.
okay. So
That's great. I love this.
you can
Merry
you can
Christmas
take
to
this
us.
away.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't
Put
want
it
it
right
this
down
close
the
to me. You're gonna get
Put it on-
smacked.
Put
Oh
it,
yeah, on
put
that
it on
apple
the
box.
apple box next to the scary.
It kind of looks like an apple box.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, put it next to the scary shotgun or pellet gun or whatever
There's
is.
the shot, the rifle, and of course,
Yes.
the girl whose eyes are very weird.
Yeah.
We've just been blessed today.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I am just unloading a lot of my haunted items. I might bring my more dangerous items at some later date.
Yeah, please do.
Oh.
Cool.
All right, so the last segment.
It's the live Q&A.
Yes.
We're doing a live Q&A.
Yeah, so if
So,
y'all have
ask
questions
away.
about Chris's sanity, have at it.
And go ahead and read the. You can just go ahead and read the questions since you're sitting there. Whenever they come through.
But since we're bringing all the things, I will bring my bone fragment, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll insert a photo of it. It's pretty creepy. Have you seen it?
I need to put up more shelves for things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do.
We need to.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to get on that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the bone.
Find the bone. So we are doing a Q&A. So anyone who is tuning in right now and has any questions regarding the paranormal, Savannah, our preference of places to eat, shoe sizes, anything really.
Or what else Chris might be hiding in his car.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Alex said,
I've emptied my car.
You've unlocked.
Alex said this is the best segment, and EO Serenity said best season finale. LOL.
I'm glad y'all are having so much fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You're having a good time.
Heck yeah! All right, send in your questions, y'all.
We'll give you a second.
Yes.
Yeah, the bone that I'm referring to, I found in our yard about a year or so ago. We were digging in the yard to do something. I don't even remember what we were doing, but
We'll just say gardening.
yeah, gardening. And we were digging, and suddenly JT pulled out a thing, and he was like, I don't know what this is. What do you think this is? I'm like, oh my God, that looks like a bone. And so we sent the photo to my cousin, who is a doctor. And he was like, and I just asked him without giving him any reference to what it could be. He goes, that looks like a fragment of a child's femur. And,
Hashtag Savannah be like.
and so now it lives on my vanity, but now it's going to come here.
Oh, yeah. All right, we got questions.
Yay. Okay.
Okay, here we go. EO Serenity asks, Chris, what else are you hiding?
What else are you hiding?
I have so much stupid stuff. It's ridiculous. For years, since probably starting in like 1996, 1997, people would bring me things, or they would ask me to evaluate things, or they would just drop things off at my house. And for a while, I just kind of carried them around either in a trunk or something like that. I came up with my own little protections for these items. But I do have what I consider to be more dangerous items that I keep in a trunk. And it's all locked up. So I don't normally spend any time near or around them. But I'm afraid to put them anywhere else. I'm afraid to leave them anywhere else. And I certainly don't want to expose anyone to them.
That's a very fair point. Although I think Debria should be exposed to them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think that Debria has the kind of spirit that would nurture them and care for them. And they wouldn't hurt you, Debria. So I'll bring them to you.
So why?
And you could just take care of them.
Please.
Why are we becoming the Warrens Haunted Museum all of a sudden?
Seriously.
Yeah.
But
Visit us, Parajunkies, or listeners, just anybody.
I want to say for years, and only probably in maybe 2016 did a lot of this slow down, but I used to get calls like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd get calls and be like, hey, you got to come to my house. Hey, I need help. I've been called to O House so many times by students who were just like wigging out over something that was happening in their dorm room. So I've definitely been on the receiving end of Ghostbuster, mentality where it's like, oh, call Chris Susi. It's like, don't call me. I'm out of that business. And this is kind of, this is kind of cathartic to me because it's like, yeah, I don't need to carry this stuff anymore. I don't really need it anymore. So that keeps me somewhat sane.
All right, we got another question.
Melissa said maybe you've talked about it before and I've missed it. Is there a significance to seeing feathers in random places all the time?
So Yes. Depends on what feathers you are seeing, because every bird has a different significance to them. A lot of birds are associated with deities and things like that. A lot of birds are certain omens, both good and bad. So a lot of times if you're seeing a feather, that is some type of, oftentimes an entity trying to get your attention. So if you're seeing crow feathers, a lot of times that's associated with Hecate or even the Morrigan sometimes. And then,
Even Odin.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you see dove feathers, that's oftentimes associated with Aphrodite. Or if you see just black feathers in general, that's oftentimes a warning of something negative coming your way.
But we even talked about it earlier in this broadcast. I don't know which segment, but feathers being a very light thing that spirits can maneuver. Sometimes it's just family or people connected to you trying to make their presence known.
Sure.
And a feather is a very easy to manipulate thing. Oftentimes that's why feathers and spirits are linked, is the idea that it doesn't take a lot of energy to move a feather. Mm-hmm. And so to have a feather show itself oftentimes, and there are people who, and we talked about this on the show plenty of times where you can ascribe a bird to a family member. When you see a certain bird, you're like, oh, that's my grandmother. Or when you see a certain bird, you're like, oh, that's my uncle. The same, too, goes with feathers. That feathers can be, a loved one is trying to show me that they are there, that they're present. So that's not an abnormal thing for something very light and simple. And usually, in my experience, those are usually little white feathers. Like very little downy, like the kind you find in a pillow, like a down pillow.
Yeah, that's why I say it depends on what feather you're finding.
After going to haunted places, have you been followed home? And if so, what was the scariest one or creepiest one?
Well, I need to ask that.
So, first things first, never go straight home from a haunted place. I always stop. Always. Even if it's just to go to a convenience store, even if it's and what we used to do is we'd go to like IHOP or to Huddle House or something, some 24-hour diner, and sit and decompress. There are two things that can happen when you go to an IHOP or something. One, completely inexplicably, a lot of ghosts don't like eggs, especially hard-boiled eggs.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
A hard-boiled egg is, of course, or the egg shape is a symbol of the soul. And almost every culture has some derivative of the fact that the egg represents the soul, the god, the deity, the pre-life, the pre-existence, anything of that nature. If you eat one in front of a spirit, the spirit's going to be like, oh, that's a ghost eater. Oh, that person just swallowed a demon. I'm not going to mess with them. So hard-boiled eggs. Eat a hard-boiled egg after a ghost hunt. Usually you can shake them. Get a coconut. If you have a coconut with you, a lot of times spirits don't mess with you because coconuts weird them out. But I generally don't go straight home. The one time I did go straight home and had something attached to me, it wasn't even like a haunting necessarily. A person showed me a mirror that he believed was haunted, a haunted mirror. It was ginormous, this big, gigantic mirror. When I got home that night, and I was brushing my teeth, I looked into the mirror and my reflection was smiling at me. Ooh. And I could not sense that I was smiling. I was like rubbing my face going, why am I smiling? In my head, I'm like trying to reconcile with what I was looking at. And that was probably one of the creepiest occurrences because the smiling Chris followed me for about 3 days. So like every now and then I would see like in the rearview mirror of my car, once in the window of my car, and I just stopped looking at mirrors altogether. And then about a week later, I was able to kind of resume everything. And that's shakeable, but that was one that stuck out to me because I really felt that whatever was in the mirror followed me home.
All right, that's a good segue into the next question. EO Serenity asks, what cryptid or spirit do you each fear the most?
Fear?
The most. That's difficult.
That is difficult because I don't really fear a lot of cryptids, if that makes sense. Because a lot of them are not coming at humans.
Right, you're not going to run into them.
Yeah, they're not really following people. I guess I would, to a degree, fear like the Jersey Devil, maybe, or to a degree. I don't know. Like
It's
even
difficult
that,
because
not really. But
as far as cryptids go, it's kind of like I would be afraid of a lion if a lion were right in front of me, but I don't fear lions.
right.
You know, I would be afraid of a shark if it were right next to me, but I generally don't fear sharks. So, like a Bigfoot, I'm sure if I were facing a Bigfoot, I'd be terrified, but I don't actively fear it. So when you're thinking of those things, it's like, what is an entity that does like creep me out and make me uncomfortable? Doppelganger is on the top of that list.
Would that be a cryptid though?
No, it's a ghost. Entity.
they said entity as well.
Yeah.
Cryptid or
Oh, okay.
entity.
I only heard cryptid,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't fear cryptids really. Entity, very different.
Yes.
Very, very different. I fear a couple of different ones.
Yeah, it's like the one I fear the most.
The one I fear the most is the look back, because
I-
if you know
yeah.
me, I spend a ton of time in the woods. Anytime I have free, I just go into the woods with either a gun or a fishing pole and have a great time. And that's the one that would be most likely to get
Yeah,
me.
to get you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I fear something like that. I fear, things that watch you in the woods, and yeah, those horrify me. And I'm not convinced that I'm not attached to one already. So it's which I don't love. I don't love that.
You got that Appalachia blood.
Well,
It's
that
coming for you.
that last question before we segued into this, that's what I think got me attached to
Oh, there you go.
this particular entity. Because the whole way we were going up the mountain to get to Helen's Bridge, and I've told this to a degree on the podcast, but just to reiterate it, the whole way up, I was just seeing this shadowy figure poking around the tree, staring at me the entire way up. And then we kept hearing the whistling noise, which is very associated with look backs
Absolutely.
and things like that. And I kept hearing it come through the spirit box. And ever since then, every single investigation, I hear that whistle come through.
Yeah. Once a whistle
And I
starts
hate that.
following you, you're dealing with an attachment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not into it. Not into any kind of thing staring at me from the woods.
Debria, what about you?
The witch riding your back.
Oh, the
Oh, the
hag?
hag.
The hag.
Yeah.
Being ridden by the hag.
I
Do you have a
couple-
hag?
You have a couple? That's awfully greedy of you.
Yeah.
Wait,
You hit the camera.
Oh, I did.
She.
I was like, leave some for other people, Debria.
What
I feel like they're different ones because of their weight. Some are light, some are heavy.
Ooh. You got a thick hag?
Yes.
What do your hags
Gotta get
look
that one
like?
illustrated too.
Yeah, the thick hag.
The thick hag.
The hag with
Just a
3
very
G's.
Juicy hag sitting on someone's chest.
What do your hags look like?
I don't know what they look like.
You just feel them?
on my back.
Ooh.
And sometimes they're on my shoulders on my back, and sometimes they're in the middle.
That's just because you work too hard to break.
No,
They be squatting on your back. They're like,
no, but I had the same experience when I was a kid, a lot.
Oh wow.
That's
I
intriguing.
wasn't working then.
That's super creepy.
That's worth investigating. That's worth discussing.
you should ask your mom if she's had experiences as well, because a lot of times hags can be generational too. They can be passed down. So,
Yeah.
or your grandma, whoever.
All
Ask
right.
somebody.
Yeah.
On to
Trace
the
it back.
next one.
Yeah.
Angie asks, have y'all talked about coming to Nashville, Tennessee? The Hermitage Hotel is incredibly
Yep.
haunted,
Yes,
as
it
well
is.
as Printer's Alley.
Oh, Printer's Alley.
Oh,
Gosh.
that's where the
I
Printer's
love Nashville.
Alley.
Angie, I love Nashville.
I also love it.
I'm a huge fan of Nashville. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great place.
All right, 2024, we doing it.
Right. I've stayed in the Hermitage for a night. It's very expensive. But I've stayed there one night, and it's horrifying. I didn't have a paranormal experience, but that is not to say that it is not haunted. And Printer's Alley, if I'm correct, that was the one where they had like a lot of mob activity or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Jay? They told us about it, where there was like the...
Yeah, I do actually.
Yes.
And what was the barkeep killed there?
Yeah, somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a really well-known barkeep.
Yeah.
And he was killed, and then I think the town went, and I could be totally telling the wrong story, but anyway, yeah.
Well, yeah, because there was like something about like this, like the bar was called like the Skull or something like that. I very blurred memories because we were out on the town, but it's
code.
Yeah, we were out on the town, So when this person was telling us this story, but we can do some more research. But yeah, we would definitely go to Nashville in a heartbeat. It's a great place.
Alex asks, when are we getting the debut of the pirate chest JT got recently? So basically, Chris, did I show you the pirate's chest? It's up. It's actually part of the show now. It's up. It's like, and she's saying a pirate chest, but it's a chest that my
I remember you talking about it.
Yes, my great grandfather built this chest, and
Well, bring it back here.
It's high up
Oh.
now. Yeah, it's a part of the set, and Shelby probably doesn't want me touching it. So, Alex, to
Go
answer
put
your
the
question,
Dybbuk box on it.
Oh my
come see
God.
the show, and you'll see it in the Hag set, actually, of the Savannah Underground of our show. And then EO Serenity asks, is there anything on the West Coast you guys would love to come and check out or are most fascinated by? Queen Mary.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the Queen Mary's so
on the
cool.
top. Winchester House. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, the Winchester House is just so fascinating and disturbing in every capacity.
The Pacific Northwest in its entirety would really be a fascinating get. And as far as Hollywood ghosts go, you can't go wrong. Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
So there's that list is pretty extensive too. I think that's the wonder of being interested in this field is there's no place you wouldn't go.
Right.
There's no place that's safe. Let's
I
say.
would
Debrea,
love
there's no place that's safe.
There's not. I mean, you wouldn't have to it wouldn't take much to get me to go over to like the Pacific Northwest. I love it. It's so ominous everywhere. But I'd love to go into some of the national parks and see what we can find, like Joshua Tree or like things like that. Because like places like Joshua Tree, if there's some ghosts around, those are hardy ghosts. That's a desert. So, it's like.
But the desert does kill. I mean, mercilessly at that. So.
Yeah.
Wherever we go, because the Pacific Northwest has such a wonderful like cryptid base. The Bigfoot craze, the fauna,
The fauna of cryptids.
Cryptid fauna. Taryn Ballou asks, actually made a comment on the feather question. True, as a native Oklahoman Cherokee, I can confirm we do not enjoy the owls, but the eagles are the most sacred.
Oh, sure.
That
Absolutely.
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, Debris, you want to read EO Serenity?
Yeah, important question. I see repeating numbers all the time, literally every day. Any thoughts on why some people encounter this more than others? Is it just a sensitivity to spirits that others don't get?
So it depends on, again, what numbers you're seeing. But angel... What?
The number 23.
Oh. Yeah, you're a goober. Okay, anyways. So anytime you're seeing like sequencing numbers like 333, 444, whatever, those are what are referred to as angel numbers, and usually they have some sort of meaning behind them. A lot of times when you're seeing repeating numbers, it is some type of spirit trying to convey a message to you. So like, for instance, I, for some reason, see the numbers 813 everywhere. I see it every single day when it turns 8:13 for some reason. I see it in random places. I came from an area where the area code was 813. I was born on 813, so I think that number is just associated with me. But I find that I think my spirit guides, when I'm being hard-headed, particularly push the number at me to bring me back and be like, hey, we're still watching, or you're messing up or whatever it is. So I would say whatever numbers you're looking up, give it a search. Numerology is such an extensive subject, and there are a lot of people that's like their one facet that they become experts in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you kind of have to do really intense research to fully understand it, but a lot of times you can get at least a general gist for whatever the message might be. If you're seeing that number. And if for some reason you read whatever the message is, the meaning of those numbers is, and it still isn't making sense, you can do other forms of divination to try to get a little bit more clarity on whatever message is supposed to be coming through. But I would recommend.
And in some cases, it's, about a path of least resistance for the kind of communication that's coming through. Because many people have like lucky numbers, numbers that they can associate and reassociate throughout any number of reasons.
The coconut didn't like that.
Yeah, I have, the succession numbers of 4393 are since very young, and they strangely appear. I will see them oftentimes in license plates or, in pieces of mail addresses and stuff like that. And it's like, I have a sense that what it's really telling me is that it is significant to who I am, these numbers. It's not always a message in the sense of almost like a reassurance of a pattern, because to people who see the pattern, it's important to pay attention when the pattern stops. If you're always seeing the numbers, it's possible that it's like everything's going the way it's supposed to go, and then one day you don't see the numbers, now something has gone off the rail.
Interesting.
All right, last question. But before we say the last question or ask the last question, Alex Machado said the barkeep that we were talking about in Nashville is Skulls, Dale, and Pratt.
That's what it was.
Skulls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is cool. And thank you for the information. Juanita asks, do you think that spirits can travel through screens when you're watching something paranormal related?
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yes, and weirdly enough, to even be maybe it's scarier to think this. Sometimes what you're dealing with is a kind of a mimic spirit that is now a spirit that was residential in your space. You're watching a screen. There's something on the screen. The mimic imitates it and takes on all the traits of that. That happens frequently. It's kind of the doppelganger effect, but with ghosts. Because there are people who have very solid experiences with very fictional things. There was a whole rash of like Freddy Krueger sightings through the late 80s. People watching Freddy Krueger and then having instances where they thought they saw him or they had this experience. And it's like, well, you're reacting to something on the screen. You're showing this attention. And there's a spirit there going, I want that attention. Why can't I have that attention? I know. I'll be like the thing you're paying attention to. And then you'll pay attention to me. So it's not always the spirit is transmitting through a device as much as it is there might be something there mimicking it. On the other hand, with the advent of the telephone, we've heard time and time again stories about phone calls from the dead. People receiving phone calls and it being either someone who had passed or asking for somebody who had passed on the line, suggesting that electronic waves, telephone, television, all broadcast not just the electric waves and beacons, but some supernatural element of who we are.
And I think it's not fully well understood how spirits interact with phones, especially because in the scheme of things, this technology is incredibly new.
Very new.
And so...
not even a blip on the radar.
Exactly. So it's like, I think a lot of us are still just watching and seeing and noting similarities.
Right.
I am not going to say that it is not possible. But I also think a lot of it is less so spirits coming through the phone and more so your attention being so focused on spirits that it heightens the amount of paranormal activity around you because you're interested in it and you're putting the energy out there that you're that's attractive to
And you
spirits.
hear that a lot, even with like a lot of ghost podcasts. People who listen to ghost podcasts talk about a marked increase in ghostly activity, and they kind of cite listening to the podcast, and it's like you're kind of opening the door in your brain and becoming more aware and open to the idea that you might have spirits around you, which could be a positive, could be a negative. Depends on the spirit.
I could see us eventually using phones more so as a form of communicating with spirits.
I
and
believe
less
that.
conjuring spirits.
Right.
That whole like, what is it? Why am I blanking on it? The movie where the ghost comes through the TV screen, Poltergeist. Thank you. My brain just blipped for a second there, but it's that same kind of concept where it's the TV's kind of the gateway, if you will. I think
absolutely.
we're starting to see,
and it's fascinating because I think that was on that early edge of understanding like why we have spirit boxes now. Poltergeist was using what people were noting and understanding about frequencies, because they turn it to the channel that isn't receiving a channel, and they would get messages through. So for a long time, that white noise channel was a tool that ghost hunters used because they thought that through the static would come, voices, and even watching the static, they could see things. So there is room to suggest that we are still in the infancy of understanding how our electronics affect the paranormal realm.
So we'll keep you updated if we gather any new information.
Right.
But
if something comes down the wires,
you'll be the first to know. But anywho, thank you guys so much for watching today's finale.
Yeah.
Debria!
Hey, Debria, did you like your birthday episode when I screamed in your ears?
It was a really good time. We enjoyed doing it for you.
Porter said that she
Spilled her coffee.
Spilled her coffee.
She was listening live. She knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we do not claim to purposely scare our listeners. We are only here to scare Debria.
We had a disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah.
I clearly said that if you hear voices or anything strange, it's not for you. It's for Debria.
Yeah. Yeah. So enjoy that for the
Y'all, the Conjuring episode is going, or the like what we do at the Conjuring house.
It's gonna be unhinged.
Unhinged. It's gonna be this, but like times 10.
I feel like the ghosts are also unhinged in that house, and so that's really just gonna add to it.
It is going to add to it. Plus, we're going to have all these great Debria reaction shots.
Yeah.
We need a Debria reaction cam.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna put a GoPro on you the whole time.
Just facing you.
Yeah, just facing you, so that we don't miss any reactions.
Also, real fast, going all the way back before we end this, I'm trying to find where there it is. The Story Arts Workshop commented, "Don't limit squonkness to Christmas." Hold on. Squonk Eaters Day, Saint Valensquonk's Day.
Oh, Valensquonks.
Squonk Dependence Day, and Hollow Squonk.
The Hollow Squonk.
Oh, Hollow Squonk.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Patrick Young.
Yeah.
Nice
The
going.
4th of Squonk. Yeah.
And I just think that that Valentine's Day and Squonk really goes together. So I think that's a full sure merch.
Well, it needs love. That's like its whole
that's all
thing.
it wants is love.
Yeah.
It just
You
wants
can
love.
put little hearts in its
so
eyes.
pitiful and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it never
Or
gets love, and that's
broken
what's beautiful
hearts
about
in
it.
its eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, bubbles, just hearts.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. There's so many ideas.
There's so many ideas. I'm hoping to get some squonk illustrations.
Some
from
squonktastic.
And Parajunkies. Yes, send it in, y'all. But yeah, go ahead and take us out of season 5, Madison, and y'all will see you January 6th. When we will start season 6. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun time, y'all.
So with that, hopefully y'all have a great and squonktastic holiday, whatever it is that you celebrate, if you celebrate at all. And if you don't, have a great rest of your winter until we see you again.
Indeed.
And with that, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all. Happy New Squonk.